why do we need a storm to see clearly?
It feels like a contradiction.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, we're wired to think of storms as just chaos. They obscure things, they get in the way.
There's something you hide from.
Exactly. You wait it out until, the real world comes back.
Yeah.
But the sources we've pulled for today's deep dive, they suggest something totally different.
They do. They propose this central paradox that sometimes the only way to get to the absolute truth is to wash away the illusion with a flood of tears.
A flood of tears. It's a heavy concept.
It's a necessary one, though. If you look at the text we have on the table, we're entering a space where destruction isn't the end of the story. It's a form of cleaning.
I want to just sit with that for a second. It feels heavy in here today. We always try to set the scene for these deep dives or little cafe karma. But the vibe today, it isn't the usual sunny coffee shop.
No. Today calls for something else. You can actually hear it in the background, can't you?
The rain.
Yeah, the rain tapping against the window pane. The smell in here isn't just dark roast coffee today. It's got that scent of old leather bindings and petrichor.
The smell of dust after rain.
Exactly. It's contemplative.
Which is the perfect backdrop because we are opening a very old and, frankly, a very intimidating book. We're looking at the 6th Nakshatra.
Ardra. That's Aardraa. It spans from 6 degrees 40 minutes to 20 degrees of Gemini.
And just to set the expectations for everyone listening, this is not a star of comfort.
Not at all. I mean, if you remember the last star we looked at, Rohini, that was the comfortable chariot, the garden, growth. Ardra is the storm that comes to shake that garden apart.
Shake it apart. How are we talking a little turbulence or a full-on hurricane?
We're talking disruption, intensity, but, and this is the key eventually, clarity.
Okay.
The whole mission here is to understand the storm, not just as weather, but as a cosmic principle. Why does the universe need a mechanism for destruction?
Okay, so let's unpack that. I want to start with the name itself. You said Ardra. I've seen it translated a few different ways, and they don't seem to match up, at least not on the surface.
They do, but you have to look at the process. The Sanskrit word Ardra literally translates to the moist one, or the wet.
Okay, the moist one. That makes sense if we're talking about storms. Wetness, rain, soaking the earth.
But, and here's where it gets fascinating, it also translates as the green, or the fresh.
See, that's the disconnect for me. Usually when I think of moisture, storms, wetness, I think of gloom, gray skies, mud. How do we get from wet to fresh?
Think about what the world looks like right after a massive thunderstorm breaks.
Everything's clean.
Everything's clean, the humidity is gone, the dust that was coating everything is washed away, the air feels crisp, the leaves on the trees are this vibrant green because the grime has been stripped off.
So that's the essence of Ardra. It's the moisture that revitalizes.
You got it. It isn't the storm for the sake of the storm. It's the process and the aftermath. The source material actually highlights 3 specific forms of moisture.
Okay.
The first, obviously, is rain, the storm that makes the earth green.
Right. Nature's reset button.
The second is tears.
Tears.
Yeah.
Now, is this just general sadness? Because the start of tears sounds incredibly depressing.
It does, but it's extremely nuanced. The texts are very specific. It represents the dispersal of sorrow.
The dispersal of sorrow.
Yeah. Think about a little kid. Have you ever watched a child have a complete and total meltdown?
Oh, absolutely. Total hysteria. Screaming, red-faced, the works.
They're crying their eyes out, and then the storm passes. 2 minutes later.
They're laughing, playing, like nothing ever happened.
Completely reset. That's the catharsis of Ardra. It's not wallowing in sadness. It's the wetness that cleanses the system.
Yeah.
If you hold that grief in, you stagnate. Ardra forces it out so you can be fresh again.
That's a helpful distinction. It's the difference between a chronic state and a necessary release, a purge.
Precisely. And the third form of moisture they mention is sweat.
Sweat, like physical exertion.
The moisture of effort, the heat of the sun bearing down, causing the body to work. The idea that nothing fresh or green grows without the sweat of labor.
That's interesting because there's a linguistic connection here that kind of blew my mind. The notes mention the English words arduous and ardent might share a root with Ardra.
It's a very strong linguistic possibility. I mean, think about the definitions. Arduous, difficult, requiring great exertion. There's your sweat.
Right.
And ardent, enthusiastic, burning, passionate. That connects to the heat and intensity of the storm. It all ties back.
So we have moisture, tears, sweat, storms. But then I look at the symbols for this star, and I see this massive contradiction.
Okay.
On one hand, you've got the teardrop, soft, wet, emotional.
Yes.
But the other main symbol is the diamond, the hardest substance on Earth. How do you reconcile a teardrop with a diamond?
This is one of my favorite connections in all of Vedic astrology because it forces us to look at physics. How do you make a diamond?
You take carbon and you bury it. A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. You take carbon and you apply massive heat and crushing pressure over a long, long time.
Okay.
That is the storm. Ardra represents that pressure. The teardrop is the emotional turmoil, the sorrow, the heat of the experience. But what does that pressure produce?
The diamond.
It crystallizes the intellect. It turns the coal of the mind into a diamond.
So the storm isn't just destroying things, it's manufacturing brilliance.
Precisely. The diamond is hard, it cuts. And Ardra is associated with a sharp cutting intellect that cuts through ignorance. But you don't get the diamond without the pressure. You don't get the clarity without the tear.
That changes the perspective on hard times, doesn't it? It makes the struggle feel purposeful.
It's entirely purposeful. And if we look up at the sky, the astronomy backs this up beautifully. Do you know which star we're actually talking about here?
I do. It's one of the few I can actually find. Betelgeuse.
Betelgeuse, Alpha Orionis, the massive red giant in the shoulder of Orion the Hunter.
And when you say massive, we mean truly huge.
Colossal. If you put Betelgeuse where our sun is, it would swallow Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. It's a volatile, bubbling red giant.
And cosmically, the sources describe this spot in the sky as the galactic gateway. What does that mean?
It sounds like pure sci-fi, doesn't it? But astronomically, this part of the sky, it points away from the galactic center.
So if the center of the galaxy is home, this is the back door leading out.
Exactly. It's looked at as a portal for outgoing exploratory energy. It turns its back on the safety of the center.
Which fits the Hunter constellation perfectly. Orion isn't sitting on a couch.
No, he is not. He is out in the wild. And that brings us to the presiding deity. If you have a red giant star, a star of storms and tears, who rules it?
Rudra.
Rudra Dutri.
Even the name sounds intense. Rudra.
It translates to the howler, or the roarer, sometimes the red one. Rudra is the fierce, destructive form of Shiva.
Okay, so I have to ask the question I'm sure is on everyone's mind. We have a howler, a destructor, a storm god. Is this an evil star?
That's the common misconception, but we have to look deeper. Rudra is the transformer. He's the storm god, yes. But his function isn't meaningless violence. He hunts down stagnation. He clears away what's outlived its usefulness.
So he's the cosmic cleanup crew.
Well, very aggressive cleanup crew. But yes, there's a core myth in the sources that explains his role perfectly. It involves Brahma, the creator.
This is the story about the deer, right? It seems complicated.
It's a metaphor for system error. The myth says Brahma became obsessed with his own daughter, Rohini. Now, don't think of this in human terms. Rohini represents creative material. Brahma is the force of creation.
So the force of creation is obsessed with the material it's creating.
Exactly. He chases her. She turns into a deer. He turns into a stag to pursue her.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, this is cosmic disorder. Creativity is stuck in a loop. It's not evolving. It's consuming itself.
It's creation gone wrong.
It is. The system is crashing. And the other gods call upon Rudra.
The hunter.
The hunter. Rudra appears, draws his bow, and shoots an arrow at the stag. He stops the act. He breaks the cycle.
He disrupts the creator to save the cosmic order.
That is the key takeaway for Ardra. Rudra represents the necessary break in a chain of events. When you're stuck in a bad habit, a toxic way of thinking, nice, gentle energy doesn't stop it.
No, you just justify it. You keep the loop going.
Right. You need a shock, a storm. You need Rudra to fire that arrow and say, this ends now.
That makes so much sense. It's not a gentle transition. It's a hard stop and a restart.
Exactly. And that action drawing the bow, aiming, leads us directly to the Shakti, the special power of the star. Ardra's is Yatna Shakti.
Yatna Shakti. The translation says, the power to make effort.
Yatna means effort or struggle.
It seems almost too simple. Effort. Why is that the superpower here?
Because in the context of a storm, effort is everything. It goes back to the hunter. The texts describe this power with an image. The effort is above and the goal is below.
The effort is above. What does that mean?
Imagine the archer. He raises the bow, applies tension, the struggle, the sweat, the aiming that happens above in the preparation. The goal below is the target he hits.
So you don't hit the target by luck.
Never by luck in Ardra. That's critical. Here, you get results through yatna, through struggle, through sweat. You have to hunt for your success.
It connects back to the moisture theme, the sweat of the brow.
It really does. Success here is arduous. There's that word again. But because it's earned, the result is a diamond. It's unbreakable.
Okay, so let's look at the technical blueprint. How does this energy manifest in a person?
We have to look at the planets.
Right, so Ardra is in Gemini. The sign ruler is Mercury, or Buddha.
Correct. Mercury is logic, data, intellect.
But the ruler of the nakshatra itself is Rahu.
The north node of the moon, Rahu.
Rahu and Mercury, that sounds volatile.
It is an intellectual storm. Think about it. Mercury collects facts. Rahu is obsession, smoke, illusion, the hunger for more.
So you take the intellect and you supercharge it with obsession.
You get a mind that doesn't just observe, it dissects.
It rips the flower apart to see how it works.
Exactly. The sources call this the mad professor energy, or the sarcastic intellectual. It probes. It's not satisfied with what is this. It demands to know why is this.
That explains the sharpness associated with it.
Yes. The nature of this star is classified as tikam.
Takam, which means sharp or dreadful.
Sharp like a snake bite. It acts suddenly.
And the cast is listed as the butcher. We should probably clarify that one.
We definitely should. It's not about violence. In this system, the butcher's job is to separate the meat from the bone.
The essential from the non-essential.
It's surgical removal of the obsolete, like an editor who deletes 3 chapters because they don't work, even if you love them.
And it hurts.
It hurts, but it saves the book. And this is why the quality, the guna of the star is tamas.
Darkness. Inertia.
Yes, but it's a paradox again. Ardra uses the energy of darkness, the confusion, the storm, to force you to find the light. It's creation through destruction.
It's like that saying, the only way out is through.
That is the motto of Ardra. You have to go through the storm.
So we have this incredible picture. Rudra with his bow, the diamond formed under pressure, the cleansing tear, and this obsessive, brilliant, sharp intellect of Rahu and Mercury trying to figure it all out.
It's a lot of energy to handle. High voltage.
It really is. And that brings us to the bridge for our next deep dive. We've established the cosmic storm, but we need to understand how it operates inside a person.
Right, because if Rudra is the storm god in the sky,
Then the human mind with this energy is a storm in a teacup, or maybe a storm in a skull.
that is a terrifying and fascinating image.
It is. So here's the question I want to leave you with as you listen to the rain outside. We know what a storm looks like in the sky, but what happens when that cosmic storm is trapped inside a human brain?
It either destroys the vessel or it creates a masterpiece.
We'll explore that in our next deep dive.